Does that shock you? The account of the empty tomb? Why are you not shocked? But those back then clearly were. We've had centuries of belief in the resurrection, haven't we? Which means what? That Jesus' disciples didn't. Some Jews did believe that there would be a resurrection, but at the end of time, and everyone all together. No one believed in that event happening to one person in advance of the end. Why do you seek the living one among the dead? Remember what Jesus told you the two men in dazzling garments said? I mean, that had to be a little embarrassing, don't you think? Jesus did tell you this. Do you not remember? Clearly, no one expected it or believed it would happen. It was nonsense. The story was nonsense, they said. No one believed, save for Christ's mother, Mary. And notice how honest this narrative is. Peter ran to the empty tomb, saw the burial cloths alone. Tomb raiders would typically not take great care to set the cloths off to the side, is what's being suggested. It wasn't tomb raiders. Peter ran to the empty tomb, saw the burial cloths alone, and he went home full of belief, right? No. Peter is described as only being amazed, not beaming with belief. The empty tomb was not enough for belief. Thieves could have stolen Jesus' body. What did Thomas say? Show me the nail marks. Let me put my hand into his side. Otherwise, I will not believe. Encountering the risen Christ was as important as the empty tomb. Encountering Jesus without the empty tomb, well, that's a problem. The body is in the tomb. Is it a ghost I see, or is it a figment of my imagination? An empty tomb without encountering Jesus, that's a problem too. Thieves, again. Both were necessary. You see, belief then, as it is now, is not irrational, nor is it an easy thing. You know, Jesus kind of hints at this with a question he once asked. When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? What do you think? If the last 3 days are any indication, it seems to me the answer is yes. On Holy Thursday, the church was full of believers who have found in Jesus the key to their life on earth. And in the Eucharist, their food for the journey. And on Good Friday, pious loyalty of the faithful was on display as they filed forward and venerated the Holy Cross on which hung the Savior of the world. It's one of the most precious moments for me, watching young and old coming forward, bowed low, kissing the cross or the feet of Jesus. And here you are all today, rejoicing in Jesus' resurrection. I mean, the flame of faith is alive, which is obviously evident in other ways too. I mean, maybe you've seen this. I have numerous people gazing at the drawings of our church. Maybe you've seen that. Maybe you've also seen people taking in all the names, looking at them, reading them. Maybe they've asked you, but they certainly asked me, how can I do that? How can I join in? And we just heard how important it is to have teachers reminding disciples what Jesus had taught, but they had forgotten or never understood. It's precisely the last instruction Moses gave before the people entered the promised land. It wasn't build a temple, it was teach your kids. Precisely what we will do in our academy. Faith is evident in so many people returning home after being away from the church, or being hit or miss at Mass for years, even decades, and coming back to confession, and then once again after all those years to communion. And at this time of the year, most especially, while we rejoice in those being baptized, those entering into full communion with the Catholic Church, and they, along with other Catholics, receiving First Holy Communion and confirmation. That new thing God did on that Easter morn, on the third day, is still bearing fruit, which is where I'll close today. You see, on the third day isn't just a chronological account. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, third day. No, it points to the reality that Jesus' death is a different type of death than Adam's was. Adam's death was the result of saying no to God, living apart from him, opening the door to death and corruption that crept in after the third day, as the Jews understood. But Jesus, his death was a different type of death, not of rebellion. It was a death, the result of saying yes to God, to loving him to the end, which opened the end to a new beginning that has no end, and therefore he was not in the tomb after the third day. No, before corruption set in, his death was a different type of death, into which you and I have been baptized. That's what Paul was saying in that second reading. You and I have been baptized into that gift of himself in love, which takes on as many different colors as there are people in the world with your specific gifts, interest, and work, in which your mission, our mission, is to invest it, to imbue it with that love which hangs on the cross and has been raised from the dead. Friends, rise to the challenge of the new life you've been given. God has loved you to the very end. Let this shock you and amaze you and strengthen your belief.